A worker who raised health and safety concerns, raised social distancing concerns, was fired.
Earlier this week, Amazon workers organized a protest to fight for safer working conditions, including paid sick leave. And a day later, they fired the worker that organized that protest. So this story is stunning. I'm going to break down some of the details here. I'm going to break down the conditions at Amazon. What he basically, this worker, Chris Small, is essentially a whistleblower exposing what Amazon was not doing and what they should have been doing to protect their workers. I'm going to break that down, but I'm also going to show you the response from Bernie Sanders and in return the response from the senior vice president of Amazon and how disgusting it is, who also happens to be Obama's former press secretary. And I'm also going to show you the reaction from New York City in terms of how they are treating this. So first, I want to read just a bit of this article from Jacobin. This is an interview from Megan Day, fantastic reporter at Jacobin. So this is the, if you want to read the whole thing, I'll link to this below the video. Amazon is a breeding ground. Interview with Christian Smalls. That's the worker that ended up being fired. This interview happened before he was fired. I want to give you some of the details that he shares here. So Megan Day asks, what's going on at your workplace? He responds, it's horrendous. Let me just start from the beginning. Before we had any confirmed cases in my building, I had pretty much foreseen what was going to happen. I've been with the company for 5 years. I opened up every major building in the tri-state, in New York, in New Jersey, and Connecticut. This is my third building over the course of those 5 years. I've been with this building since it opened almost 2 years ago. So at or around the beginning of March, we had some managers that returned back from Seattle. Seattle is where Amazon has its headquarters, and it was one of the first hotspots in America for the coronavirus outbreak. One of the managers came back, and shortly after that, she left because she was sick. From that point forward, it was just a domino effect. Supervisors were calling out sick. My colleagues were calling out sick. I was sending associates home left and right because they were sick. 3 weeks ago, I took a stand and brought it up to leadership, like, quote, hey, there's something wrong here. We need to shut this building down and quarantine everyone for 2 weeks with pay. They didn't listen. At that point, I walked out. I said, I'm not going to sit here and watch people get sick and y'all do nothing about it. I've been unpaid ever since, and I've been fighting behind the scenes. I've been calling the health department and the CDC. I've sent out numerous emails to the press. I'm trying best I can to build awareness of the situation. So fast forward to this week, I decided to go back to work one day to see how things were shaping up, to see if they made any safety changes. As soon as I got there around 8:30 in the morning, I ran into my colleague. She looked horrible, bloodshot red eyes, all puffy. I said, what are you doing here? You look sick. She informed me that she went and got tested last night for the coronavirus. I said, wait, you got tested for the coronavirus and they allowed you to come back in the building? We all know you don't get the test unless you're showing severe symptoms, so I sent her home. Less than an hour later, we had a small managers meeting and they informed us that we have one confirmed case. That wasn't the person I'd run into. She was confirmed later. Instead, it was a confirmed case of a person who had started to feel sick the week before. I found this out a little after 11 in the morning and was out the door by 12. On my way out the door, I told as many people as I could to go home. At this point, I've heard of at least 7 people who have tested positive. So this interview goes on with more details, but I just wanted to give you kind of the a window into what this Amazon worker was experiencing in his warehouse. And what ended up happening after the walkout, I believe on Monday. Reporting here, Chris Smalls was fired after a walkout at an Amazon warehouse. Amazon says he violated quarantine. He says the company isn't protecting workers. So this part here, Amazon saying he violated quarantine, we're going to get to that. Don't worry. We're going to get to how ridiculous that is. First, Bernie reacted to this, Bernie Sanders, tweeting out saying Amazon's warehouse workers protested because people are getting sick on the job. Their demands were not radical. A safer workplace, protective gear, and paid sick leave. These are all pretty basic requirements. Like this, they're not asking for the world here. They're asking for a safer workplace, protective gear, and paid sick leave. Amazon's response, retaliate by firing a worker who helped organize the walkout. This is absolutely immoral. Now, watch what Jay Carney. So Jay Carney is Amazon's senior vice president, again, Obama's former press secretary. Here is how he reacted to Bernie Sanders and his tweet saying, Senator Sanders, I'm confused. Thought you wanted us to protect our workers. Mr. Smalls purposely violated social distancing rules repeatedly and was put on paid 14-day quarantine for COVID exposure. On March 30th, he returned to the site. Knowingly putting our team at risk is unacceptable. This is I will show you how absolutely ridiculous this tweet is. So Megan Day, further on in the interview that I showed you earlier from Jacobin, she screenshots the important parts here, responding to Jay Carney saying, "Hi Jay, I conducted an interview with Chris Smalls before he was fired. He said that he was the only person quarantined for exposure to a COVID positive coworker who interacted with dozens of other workers. He suggests it may have been retaliatory. Care to comment?" So Amazon here, the senior vice president, Jay Carney, saying, oh, we had to quarantine this worker because he was exposed to the coronavirus. But he didn't quarantine, or Amazon didn't quarantine anybody else. They just quarantined him. Because, as he explains here, Megan Day asks, wait, you haven't tested positive for the virus? Why did they quarantine you? Because I'm being rebellious right now, Chris says. I've been coming to the building, bringing groups of 10 or 20 people to the general manager's office to voice our concerns. They decided to cut off the head of the snake. They quarantined me as of yesterday. So I'm getting paid now, but I don't even care about the money. At this point, I'm just trying to organize. I'm just doing what I feel is right. And again, this interview was before he was fired. So at the time, he was put into forced quarantine, was getting paid while he was put into forced quarantine. And a couple of days later was fired because he organized this walkout. Absolutely disgusting. But I have more here. Jay Carney ends up coming back and tweets out, because he got so much hate for this initial tweet because of how wrong and disgusting it was. He tweeted out again later saying, I wonder if folks on Twitter who respond to facts and ideas they don't like with ad hominem vitriol ever pause to wonder why they're not very good at winning people over to their point of view. The idea that anybody's trying to win Jay Carney over to like, we are not trying to win a guy who works for Amazon, who's the senior vice president of Amazon and is stamping out worker protests, is stamping out organizers, is not putting their workers in safe conditions. Why the hell would anybody want Jay Carney's support? And notice how he completely ignores the actual criticisms of what he was saying, has no response to what Megan Day had tweeted out here about her interview. Absolutely disgusting. More here. So here's a response from Bill de Blasio, New York City mayor, on after hearing about this firing.
And it is an issue that's causing us real concern. We heard from Staten Island, from the Amazon Fulfillment Center, a specific charge that a worker who raised health and safety concerns, raised social distancing concerns, was fired. The allegation is because he spoke up for the safety of his fellow workers, he was fired. I have ordered the city's Commission on Human Rights to investigate Amazon immediately to determine if that's true. If so, that would be a violation of our city human rights law. We would act on it immediately. I should also note that the sheriff's office did an inspection of the facility to ensure that social distancing is being observed, and they will continue to inspect as needed.
All right, so New York City taking steps here to investigate this. Hopefully it will be investigated properly. I think it's a pretty clear case. I mean, especially when you force quarantine the one employee that is organizing the protest, it's kind of obvious what you're doing. I mean, the idea that you would vilify the one employee that is actually standing up for workers, standing up for safer conditions, just stunning. I want to share this one last thing. So this is still Amazon, but not the same warehouse. This is Chicago's Amazon workers walkout. In this interview, one speaker, this is from CPD Action. In one interview, this video, one speaker gets too emotional to speak and is followed by another worker exposing unsafe COVID-19 conditions inside the facility. Hashtag Amazon strike grows. So it wasn't just, a walkout at this one Amazon facility in New York State. It was also in other areas as well. So I want to share this. This is a really, really powerful speech. Check this out.
We all here for the same purpose. We all have families. We all are missing out on money, but We're doing this for a cause that's bigger than you, and it's bigger than me. It's bigger than a lot of us. We are here because we want to work. We want to work. This is not about Amazonians being lazy. We want to work. We want to work in a clean facility. We want to work where we're going to be safe. Our kids are going to be safe. Our families are going to be safe. How can we be essential workers but our lives are not essential? Make it make sense to me. They're not going to be here for you if you become ill, your kids become ill, your family member become ill because they did not want to clean. We're not asking. We are asking for basic needs. Cleanliness, which is what they're saying all over the news. Wash your hands. We don't even have enough time to wash our hands.
They ain't even got no sanitizer in the damn
Exactly.
bathroom.
And they water not even hot.
They want us to be socially distant. Okay, you have the pullers, you got the diverters, you got the upper diverters, you got the scanners, you got the stores. The dock. We are never at one point in time 6 feet away from one another. This is a prime case of getting sick. This building, this company makes so much money off the back of us.
So, powerful words there. And it is important to put into context how much money Amazon makes. Jeff Bezos now, I've lost count of how of his wealth. He's at what, 160 billion, 170 billion? I don't even know. Amazon makes so much money, and they can't even guarantee their workers paid sick leave. They can't even guarantee their workers a safe environment to work in. And instead, what are they doing? Let me show you another piece of the interview with Christian Smalls here. Megan Day asks him, what do you think about Jeff Bezos getting praised for hiring 100,000 new workers during the economic shutdown? Chris responds, they're replacing people who are choosing to stay home unpaid in order to be safe with these new hires who need the money. These new people, we've never seen them before. We have no way of knowing if they're sick. The company is dumping 40 or 50 new people on the floor in my department at once. And it puts loyal employees who've been there for a long time at risk. It shows us that we're worth nothing to them. All we can do as people, that if you don't work at Amazon, is when there's protests like this, you have to engage in a boycott. Unfortunately, there's not much that we can do apart from putting pressure on politicians to investigate situations like this. It's good to see that Bill de Blasio is investigating it. But apart from doing that, you have to stand with the workers at these companies that are facing these conditions.